Warm welcome to this lecture series on organizational behavior. We are in the chapter on decision making, and this is going to be our last session in this particular chapter. I'll quickly summarize what happened in the previous lectures. We discussed about the importance of decision making in organizational context. We spoke about individual decision making and also decision making in groups. We spoke about why organizations it is very important to understand the process of decision making. We also looked at different approaches in decision making. We broadly classified them into rational approach and intuitive approach. We also spoke about the concept called bounded rationality. We also spoke about what stops people from making effective decisions, or why people fear decision making. There are broadly two important reasons. One reason is people don't want to take the risk. Two, people may not know whether they are in the position to take the decision or who should take the decision. Okay. We also looked at different decision making biases. Decision making biases are problems which individuals encounter which can lead to wrong decisions or incorrect or inappropriate decision making mechanisms people use when they make decisions. We looked at many decision making biases. There are quite a lot of these biases, but we discussed only some of the relevant ones in the organizational context. We also discussed about the pros and cons of individual decision making and the group decision making. We spoke about the advantages of group decision making and also a very important restriction or problem which might happen in group decision making, which is arriving at a consensus in the group and the amount of time it might take. We spoke about the different steps involved in team decision making, and in each of those steps we looked at some of the important aspects and also the possible problems the teams might encounter. For example, in orientation stage we looked at how the hidden profile paradigm which we studied in the previous chapter can affect decision making. Similarly, in the second stage, discussion stage, we looked at how individual biases which we studied in the attitude chapter and how it can affect discussion during group decision making. We also looked at some of the group decision making techniques. We spoke about nominal group technique, Delphi technique and Ringi technique, and these techniques are used to arrive at a very democratic way of decision making. In other words, these techniques help avoid biases and also influences of the powerful member in making decisions. By doing that, it leads to a more consensual or democratic way of group decision making. So this is where we stopped in the previous lecture. I am going to talk about some of the crucial problems which teams may encounter during decision making, especially during the discussion stage and the decision making stage of group decision making or team decision making. So one simple method teams adapt during decision making, especially when there are multiple options available to them, is voting or looking at what majority thinks. So when we say what majority thinks, the simplest method is voting method. Let's say each of these options, the group leader or the coordinator can put forward or list each of the options available and ask the members whether they agree to it or don't agree to it, whether they accept it or they don't accept it, or simple yes or no. How many of them think or how many of them feel yes to the solution and how many of them feel no to the solution. And it is very easy to use this method because it is very simple, it takes very less time, and it is very It doesn't involve very tedious process of analyzing all the members inputs. You just have to count how many people and see how many people have said yes, and for each of the options you see number of yes and number of no, and the one which has got more number of yes, you just pick up that solution. It's a very simple method, and people also think it is a time saving method. But what do you think? What do you think about using majority rule? Majority rule means majority opinion is considered to be the right opinion or the right solution. So what is the problem in majority rule, especially in team decision making? One important criticism about majority rule is majority may not necessarily be correct. Majority opinion doesn't mean that it is the correct opinion or a technically sound opinion. If you remember in the advantages, or in the slide where we compared individuals versus team decision making, we looked at something called the best team member versus the team. So the best team member can be right, but all the others in the team may be wrong. In that case, the best team member is the minority, and there is a lot of pressure on this minority person who's right in his or her decision, in his or her solution or choice. He or she has to agree to the majority even though the majority is wrong. Okay, so that is where synergy comes into picture. The team has to ensure the best ideas from everyone should be collated and the best possible solution should be identified. So one, the majority opinion may not necessarily be the correct opinion or the right solution. Two, the majority opinion can put lot of pressure on minority members. Whether they are right or wrong, minority members is a different story. Okay, but if some people in the group have the minority opinion, when I say minority opinion which differs from the majority of the group, it may lead to a lot of pressure on them, and also it may also make them feel they are an outcast in the group, or they are not part of the group. That is where the team leader has to play a very important role, where the team leader should ensure everybody should feel part of the group, even though they have differences of opinion, even though their opinion is different from majority of the group. Why it is important? Because over a period of time it will create a communication climate in the group. What I mean to say is, when minority members or members with minority opinions when they are treated differently, or when they are treated unfairly, or when they are not listened to, over a period of time, even when somebody is correct, they may not open their mouth, they may not even come out and voice out their opinion, because they know if they are the minority, or if they have an opinion which is different from all the other members, they will be treated as an outcast. Okay, so that will create a very bad communication climate in the group. So voting and using majority opinion as the right opinion in long run can cause problems for the group. Apart from this, we will look at some of the other problems in majority rule. One, in majority rule, level of preference may vary. For example, if as a leader, if I put forward one option and say how many of you agree and how many of you disagree, so there might be middle path also. There are some people who may be in the middle. Let's say the solution can be, you can have three options: how many of you agree, how many of you disagree, how many of you are uncertain. Okay, even uncertain is not necessarily exactly in the middle. Okay, I am not sure is different from, which is uncertain, I'm uncertain, is different from I don't want to answer. Okay, so then you can have four options: I agree to the solution, I disagree to the solution, I don't want to say anything about this, I don't know. Okay, but again, I'm not sure can be of different levels. Okay, so some people might be agreeing to it but not exactly completely agreeing to it. Similarly, some people will have some negative opinion towards the solution. They may disagree but not necessarily strongly disagree. Okay, so asking for people to raise their hands for yes or no will restrict people's preferences, or we are trying to box them into fewer number of boxes, yes or no or yes no uncertain box, whereas there can be multiple possible opinions about that solution. So we are missing out on people who are in different levels or different shades of yes or no. So why is it important to understand different shades of yes or no? Why? Because when you start putting people in boxes of yes or no or yes no uncertain, what happens is the improvisation which might have happened by combining many solutions is failed. In other words, it leads to lack of creativity. For example, there are two solutions available. We are asking to choose between these two. Then the assumption is one is correct and one is wrong. What about combining both these solutions and coming up with a third solution? Or picking up the best of both the solutions and creating a third solution, which involves a lot of creativity. Okay. Similarly, yes or no, instead of yes or no, we can have a rating scale. For every solution, give a rating scale and ask people to rate in terms of strongly agree to strongly disagree. But the problem here is it will take time to analyze all these solutions, and then you may have to ask people why you disagreed. All those brainstorming should happen. So that is where the earlier methods we saw, like Ringi method or nominal group method, will be more democratic and more effective in picking up all those minority voices and encouraging people to be creative. And the third problem which may happen in majority rule is it may lead to subgroup formation or coalition formation. It may lead to high politicking in the group. Politicking means people having their own interests, trying to support the other member because there is some personal benefit they may get out of it. Okay, so it may lead to, for example, if the powerful member, if the boss says yes to one idea, most people will say yes because they want to be in the good books of the boss, or good book of the people who are similar to them. So let's say there's a heterogeneous group and people from the same department may say yes, even though they may not, all of them in that group, subgroup, may not agree to it. They are saying yes because they don't want to go against their department people in the group. Okay, or the regional people or people who are of the same background. So subgroup may evolve because they don't want to dissatisfy, or they don't want to get into the they don't want to become an outcast in the subgroup. So politicking might happen and subgroup formation may happen, which is not good for the larger group or the larger team. So it will affect the climate, or it may affect the cohesiveness of the larger group. So instead of having yes or no or voting, we can have many other methods like as I mentioned, nominal group method, Ringi method, or Delphi method, where discussions can happen and people can have the option of agreeing, disagreeing, being in the middle, or coming up with a newer solution. All those things should be possible. Okay. So we are going to look at some of the problems groups might encounter, or the kind of traps groups might encounter during decision making. The first and foremost trap groups can get into is groupthink. In fact, we will talk about this groupthink in detail in a chapter on team dynamics. But groupthink, I will quickly explain what is groupthink and why it happens. So groupthink is people in a group, since they want to agree to others, or since they want to portray as if the group is a cohesive group or a harmonious group, they tend to say yes, and that may lead to wrong decision. In other words, as a team member, I may not agree to the team's decision, but I will say yes to the team's decision because I don't want to look like an outsider, or I don't want to look like a problem creator. Okay, so this may happen, groupthink might happen more in groups which are very cohesive. When the group members are like very cohesive in terms of they like each other, they feel highly committed to the group, all of them, they are very proud of their group, they are very, they feel their group is the best. So those kind of groups where team members are like very strongly connected, the pressure on individual members to say yes to a group decision is very high. What about, this can lead in extreme cases, everybody may disagree to a decision, but they may keep quiet or say yes because they assume others are liking the decision. In fact, it is called another bias which is called Abilene paradox. We'll talk about it in the next slide. So groupthink is a very popular phenomena. In fact, because of groupthink, many groups have failed. Like, there were a lot of these case studies on very important decisions. Like, for example, Apollo 13, the NASA's satellite launch failed because of groupthink, where one particular engineer was of a decision that there is a problem in this engine, or there is some problem in some part of this rocket. So Apollo 13 is a satellite NASA launched. It's a very famous case, where very unfortunate case also. When they launched this rocket, it exploded and all the members in the crew died. But before the launch, one person, an engineer, said I think there is some problem in this rocket. But all the others, they said no, you don't know, or they were not supportive, so this member kept quiet. Okay, so there are many cases like this. Groupthink has created very disastrous failures for the group. So why, or when will you know a group might commit this groupthink, or when will you know a group is falling into this trap of groupthink? The first and foremost symptom is overestimation, which means overconfidence. That the group will feel that they are the great, they are the best in the organization. So this may happen in other groups also. When a country, or when people have very high levels of patriotism, when they feel the country cannot fail, the country cannot go wrong, or whatever decision my government takes is the correct decision, because as a country we cannot fail or we cannot go wrong. That can lead to bias. That is what we call fascism, where every team, every national, every member of the country feels they shouldn't say no, or they should not disagree to the larger national decisions. Okay, so it can happen in smaller groups also. So overestimation or too much pride on the group can create a sense of overconfidence, which may lead to groupthink. Close-mindedness means the members are so cohesive, they think all the others outside the group are their enemies. In-group, out-group feeling. Okay, so when the group becomes tightly knit, all the members feel too cohesive, whoever is outside the group, whoever is not similar to the group members, they are considered to be outsiders, and there is always this feeling of these outsiders will harm us, or they are against our they are against our well-being as for this group. So when you are very close-minded, you will not even listen to opinions which are coming from outside. You will only listen to opinion which is there inside, and whatever opinion which is slightly away, even if it is slightly away from the group's opinion, you will consider them to be a very stigmatized opinion. So close-mindedness, when group members are not willing to listen to others. The third symptom is pressure towards uniformity. So the group puts lot of pressure on members to be uniform in terms of the way they look, the way they their habits, the way they the dress code, all those, or the way they think. If there's too much pressure on the members to be uniform in all the aspects, then it can lead to groupthink. So over a period of time, the group will fail in decision making. So how to resolve this groupthink? We'll talk about it in detail in the in one of those chapters on team dynamics. But the leader plays a very important role. The leader should ensure these symptoms, whenever these symptoms happen, the leader should ensure that groups don't fall into this trap of groupthink, and also try to be more democratic, make the group more heterogeneous, try to have collaborations with other groups and things like that. So it involves the role of the leader. The next problem which may happen in group decision making is Abelin's paradox. In fact, I explained it in the previous slide, where it is similar to groupthink, but in extreme cases, every team member, they may think this decision is not going to work, okay, but they will say yes, they will say fantastic decision, because they feel if I say no, others will feel bad or others will treat me as an outcast. So why to take this risk? I will say yes. And everybody will think like that and fall and take a decision which everybody dislikes, which is like height of stupidity. It is like failing together because they want to save each other's face, okay, which is overemphasis on consensus. Okay, so the major reason for this is they don't want to get into conflict. Even the slightest conflict they want to avoid. Okay, so that is where in a team it's better to have some level of conflict rather than be very, very close to each other. Okay, the third trap, which is more common in teams, especially in decision making in teams, is escalation of commitment. It can happen for individuals also, but teams, escalation of commitment is a very serious problem. It happens more in work teams than among individuals. Escalation of commitment means, I will explain it in very simple words. So you have made a decision as a group, okay, and the group is also responsible for execution of the decision. They have to ensure the decision is applied and executed. So when halfway through the execution of the decision, the group understands, or there are symptoms that this decision will not work, you have taken a wrong decision, okay. So you're halfway through the decision execution, and halfway through you understand, or there are symptoms that we are going the wrong path. So what will you do? Will you go back and again decide, or would you keep walking in the same path because you already walked this much? Okay, so when people keep walking in the same path, even though there are symptoms saying that you are walking the wrong path, is called escalation of commitment. Since you are committed to a decision, you keep moving in the same direction even though you know there might be some problems. Okay, this is like you start building a big power plant, and halfway through you understood this power plant is not going to work. So you try to do something, some jugaad or hodgepodge work so that it might work. You keep repeating the mistake and try to cover up the mistake by doing things, spending more on that, keep investing on that. All those things will happen, and ultimately the project will fail. It's always better to return from the wrong decision, backtrack from the wrong decision instead of keep walking in the same decision. Okay, so non-rational escalation means you made a rational decision initially, but over a period of time that environment changed. You made a decision considering certain factors to be true. Those factors changed over a period of time. So what will you do? You should also change the decision. If it involves starting from zero, you should do it, because the situation has changed. Otherwise, you are going to fail. So this is what is non-rational decision, non-rational escalation of commitment. In fact, if you remember bounded rationality approach, where if you know what you don't know, that will help you come up with plan B. Or you will also know, okay, these are things we don't know, these are things might change over the course of time, so that may affect our the effectiveness of the decision. So what should we do, knowing what you don't know? So if you know what you don't know, this non-rational escalation can be avoided. Okay, so instead of saying all my decisions are rational, you should also know what are the possible problems we might encounter when this decision is halfway through, or when we execute this decision. Okay, so how will you or one important reason why escalation of commitment happens, or why people don't want to come back, or why people don't want to drop this decision and start fresh, is there are many reasons. One, they are influenced by the effort, money and time already invested. So there is we call it sunk cost. So once you backtrack from the decision, you are losing everything which you have invested in that particular decision, isn't it? So all these money, effort, time, and also the pride of the group goes waste. Okay, so you spend so much in this path, or you have spent so much in traveling in this path, you already decided. Now going back is like all those effort going waste. Effort, money, time, everything goes waste. You don't want to do that. And one important thing is, if you backtrack, then it means you're saying we have failed, or we have taken a wrong decision, and no team wants to get into that scenario. No team, or even individuals, they don't want to get confronted and being said that I have gone wrong. So they don't want to face that reality. Okay, so this is what is called sunk cost. So sunk cost means costs which cannot be recovered once they have been incurred. Okay, so when the sunk cost is very high, escalation of commitment is also very high. When you see, okay, we have invested so much, everything will go waste, so let's try, let's invest more, let's spend more, so that we can save whatever is possible. And again, that may not work, and whatever investment you are making later will also is going to go waste. Okay, so these are some of the other reasons why escalation of commitment can happen. Nature of setback. If you feel the setback is going to be small, you will backtrack. Okay, we are not invested so much, we can go back and start from fresh, people will do it. But when people think you cannot go back, there's a lot of money invested, the setback will be very high, so I will not go back. So nature of setback. Personal rewards. So if you think that that particular decision, or that that path, you are highly committed to it, and it is like a dream project. Okay, if you fail, everybody is going to make fun of you, and you are going to fail miserably, and your ego is going to be taking a beating, and your reputation is going to get spoiled. So you will not go back. You will not say I have done wrong, or my decision is wrong. Okay, so your personal rewards involved in achieving it, ego and reputation can stop people from going back. It will increase the escalation of commitment. Another important reason is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, if you remember, we saw it in perception. So what will happen is, we tend to seek information which supports our assumption. So things may go wrong during the process, but you will try to not look at them. You will not perceive them as setbacks. You will perceive them as temporary setbacks. You will look at them as random things. So you will try to brush up all those, cover up all those problems which may happen in the middle, and say, no, these are minor problems, we can proceed with the decision. Okay, And perception of recovery, you may think this failure which happens or these symptoms which we encounter in the middle are temporary problems, we may recover. Okay, like gambling, you gamble, you look only the profits you make, and whenever you fail or whenever you lose, you will think, no, these are small things, we will recover it later when we win. Okay, perception of recovery. And also group cohesiveness, if the group is like very strongly committed to the decision, they will not go back. Okay, if the group is very close to each other, they will think, no, going back is like questioning our team decision, which we should not do. Let's go together, even if we are going to fail miserably, let's all fail together. Okay, so this is like Abilene paradox. Okay, so these are some of the reasons for escalation of commitment in groups. So how to avoid escalation of commitment? One, set clear-cut limits. So every decision when it is made, during the execution, you have to set clear-cut limits of, okay, at this stage these are the results we expect. If the results doesn't come, we should go back. Okay, so every stage should have clear-cut yardsticks which should say whether this decision should be continued or not. Okay. Second, avoid ambiguity. Like I said, clear-cut milestones. You don't have to say very ambiguous terms in terms of we will achieve this and things like that. Very clearly you should mention our profit should go to this level, we should achieve it in this time frame. Very clear-cut time frame and goals. We should also have external reviewers, having external consultants who will evaluate the project or the decision in regular intervals. So why external reviewers? Because external reviewers will not have any bias, because if you are an internal reviewer, you will feel you will have confirmation bias. You will look at only the good things, you will not look at the bad things or the problems in your decision. External reviewers, they will not have that bias. If it is bad, they will clearly say this is bad, and they will not have this confirmation bias. And fourth, sunk cost. You should accept as a team, gone is gone. We cannot recover it. At least we should not incur more expenses. We should not invest more, and accept that whatever has gone is gone, accepting the sunk cost. And also managing emotions. So when you're making decisions and executing them, getting too much attached to that decision and saying this is my dream project, or this is going to be our pride, and all those things are not going to help. If you having emotions attached to a decision, it is going to affect your decision making in terms of confirmation bias or escalation of commitment. So I'll stop here. So this is the end of the decision making chapter. The next chapter we will talk about leadership and power. Okay, so we'll meet in the next lecture. Till then, take care. See you in the next lecture.